This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap. Welcome on in, folks. We are, as always, glad you are here. This will be Season 8, Episode number 5 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2026 Japanese GP preview show. Cody, I wonder if this one feels like almost a home away from home race, especially considering you're going to be visiting there soon. I imagine you're really excited for this one.
I am very excited for this one, beyond the fact that it's just in Japan, which is a place that I visited and love and am very soon visiting again. It's also just a really fun track, and it's really great to watch cars go really fast around it. So, yeah, I am psyched. I'm psyched that it's this time of year now, so that it's not, as much risk of pouring rain and getting the race shortened. So it should be.
Yes, a monsoon is never good, especially if you're trying to have an F1 race. And run from my prelim, we'll talk about the weather when we get there, but it's looking like it should hold for the weekend. So we're excited about that. Like I said before, we are glad you are here. You can find our show, and a lot of you have in the last little bit. So thank you if you are new to us. This is what we do. We do race previews. We do race reviews. We talk about F1. It's a sport we love. It's a sport we love to talk about. So you can find us on X, on Instagram, sometimes on Discord, Reddit, and of course here on YouTube. At Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of those places. If you like what you're hearing and you enjoy what you're watching, you can do us a favor, click the like or the subscribe button on YouTube. What did they always say? Click like, subscribe, and comment for the algorithm. That will help us out quite a bit. You can email the show, lapf1@gmail.com. We'll get your thoughts to us. One Nation has a new member. We've had this list for a long time. I have to say something about this. I apparently am a really bad business of podcast person because I would always put in this thing the link. And this is the part of the show where I always ask, if you want to give $1, $5, we'll be more than happy to take it. I didn't realize that the link that we had been promoting for over a year had stopped working. So even if you wanted to give us some money, you really couldn't. So we apologize for that. I've made a new link. It does work. You can donate to the show at buymeacoffee.com/outlapf1. And our first Buy Me a Coffee person happens to be great supporter of the show as always, Miss Rachel Fleming. So she is now on the list. So thank you so much and you know the rest of these names: Dean Warwick, Erie Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, Jonathan Scott, and now Rachel Fleming. So thank you very much for the donation there, Rachel. All right. Well, we were set to kind of have what we thought was going to be our agenda, and then the FIA went and did some breaking news for us. So we're going to talk about some of the team principal drama that's been happening since the checkered flag fell in China. But we didn't think, based on the feedback from the Chinese GP, that the FIA were going to necessarily do anything. They were going to hold the summit, Energy Deployment Summit, it seemed kind of after the Japanese Grand Prix. Well, this came out about an hour ago. The FIA, in a statement, has released, and they said they're going to reduce the maximum energy recharge for qualifying for this weekend's race from 9.0 megajoules to 8.0 megajoules. And we were actually trying to put our heads together and go, the first thing we said is, well, they reduced it? Well, the theory is that less amount of recharge will lead to hopefully less super clipping and a less need in a qualifying setting to do the lift and coast, which is the thing that sounds weird, where the engine's humming at full thing, yet the car is going slower because it's all doing all the regen stuff that nobody really likes. So it's taken my breath away. Cody, what is your thought on this? Do I think I've got the theory right? It just feels, I wish they would explain it a little bit better to the fans, because that would help this a bit.
Yeah.
But what's your thought?
I'm sure there's people way smarter than me who know what they're doing on this, hopefully. I'm struggling to wrap my head around the logistics of it, because to me, reduced recharge means that so let me get this straight. We're reducing the maximum energy recharge. So that means that's the maximum you can recharge over the course of a lap?
Correct.
Okay. So that, in that case, makes sense to me, because you're not doing everything in your power to try to get up to that 9 megajoules. You only need to reach 8. So yes, maybe there's going to be less of a need for extreme tactics to get to your maximum allotment, because that maximum allotment is less. So you should be able to hopefully get that maximum allotment by more normal means of just, breaking through the corners like you normally would and whatnot. You don't have to do as much of the super clipping and lifting coasting and all that stuff that we've been complaining about that makes the qualifying seem a little wacky at the moment. So I was originally under the impression that that was a rate that they were allowed to recharge at, in which case that made no sense, because if you're recharging at a lesser rate, then you would want to be recharging more often, which would do the complete opposite of what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah, it says on the FIA release here that they're doing this, as you said, in the hopes that it will lead to less extreme super clipping and lifting and coasting. So I hope that actually follows through. And this is, again, just a change for qualifying. The cars will still be able to recharge 8.5 megajoules under normal conditions in the race and 9.0 megajoules when overtake is active.
Yeah. So I'll just read some of the statement here. It goes, this adjustment reflects feedback from the drivers and teams who have emphasized the importance of maintaining qualifying as a performance challenge. So I think all of the bewilderment after qualifying, at least in the FIA's mind, has not gone on necessarily deaf ears. The FIA notes that for the first events under 2026 regulations have been operationally successful, and this targeted refinement is part of the normal process of optimization of this new regulatory framework is further validated in real world conditions. I apologize. The text on this is very, very small. The FIA could really use to get a better font, if nothing else. But yeah, I mean, I think they're at least saying we're not just closing our ears and shouting at the wall and saying, hey, everything is rosy. We realize that, this was a thing. The fans noticed it. The drivers noticed it. So it's a step. We'll see if it actually, as the course of the weekend goes through, how much of a step it looks like. What does it feel like on the onboards, and what do the drivers think after this? So it's an adjustment. It's something they can futz with, and at least they've agreed that they can at least try. But that was the breaking news story. We had some other stuff that shocked the heck out of us that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Now, some of this is a bit of a surprise, and some of it really isn't. The Adrian Newey stepping down as Aston Martin team principal, I don't know if that's a huge surprise, especially given the fact that he's never really liked to do media. He's really an engineer and a designer. And why he was put out there on that perch in the first place never really made a whole lot of sense. But the replacement is rumored, and it's all but done, because we now know that he is officially out of his role as team principal of Audi, is going to be Jonathan Wheatley. So Mr. Positivity in the paddock. If you watch Drive to Survive, they did a whole compare and contrast. Jonathan Wheatley versus Christian Horner. Christian Horner's, the whipsaw guy, and Helmut is the whipsaw guy, and Jonathan Wheatley is Mr. Positivity. And together at Red Bull, they made great music, and along with Adrian Newey. So, do we have potentially this getting the band back together? Cody, what's your thought on all this? This was crazy.
I think it's kind of funny that Adrian Newey is already stepping down as Aston Martin team principal. We all thought it was kind of a little bit of a weird move, because we all kind of thought that's not really what he does. And we kind of wondered, was he pressured into that role for one reason or another? Was that something that he wanted to do to further his already illustrious career? It's starting to look like maybe he didn't really want to do it after all. So he's already stepping down from that role. I think Jonathan Wheatley is a great choice for that. He's, wanted to have this upward mobility for a long time. He's, already been involved as the team principal over at Audi. It makes me wonder just what kind of offer Aston Martin has given him, because he was already team principal at a team that is currently significantly more successful than Aston Martin. So all I can think of is that they must have given him some big ass payday, man.
I'm assuming there was a Brinks truck and they opened it and it was full of green things.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, because it's the only way that this makes any sense. Because if you go and you read, the surprising nature of this is Jonathan Wheatley looked like and sounded from everything he was doing that he was all in on the Audi project, that he was in it for the long haul, that he understood the scope. Like he would go out there and he would say, look, we're talking about making marginal gains. We're not going to obviously be challenging for podiums and race wins in this first year. It's all about setting the foundation for bigger and better stuff later. Their driver lineup kind of reflects that. They've got the old hand in Nico Hülkenberg, the young guy in Gabby Bortoleto, and it looked like that they had really kind of, you saw even last year, just after he got there, the strategy at the racetrack changed. I mean, hell, Nico Hülkenberg got a podium under Jonathan Wheatley's tutelage, and it took him how many years to get that done? So it was very, very surprising that now all of a sudden, like the rumor happened and it went so fast that like all of a sudden then the statement comes out from Audi. Audi have got to be pissed, man. They still have a figurehead in Mattia Binotto who will, according to the Audi stuff that I've seen, will continue to lead the team while taking over the additional responsibilities. But Binotto's a lot like Adrian Newey. He doesn't want to be in the media spotlight, doesn't want to do it. It's just, my God, I guess money still does talk in this sport is the only way I can describe it. But Cody, any other thoughts?
The next breaking news you're going to hear is breaking Christian Horner to re-enter Formula One as team principal of Audi.
Don't be surprised. I
won't be. I'm only half joking.
Like you called it here. You heard it first, folks. If Cody's going to do a victory lap if that one comes through, I guarantee you. But yeah, I mean, it's wow. I mean, and the other thing that just makes that I get out of this is that Aston Martin team principal seat feels like almost as bad as the Red Bull second driver's seat, where it's just like the revolving door has gone through. They've gone through 5 team principals in the last, was it 4 or 5 years? I mean, you could just line them up and it's like, it's the meme with, the death at the door and they're just knocking at the next one. And I hope if Jonathan Wheatley, I mean, the good news is like for Aston Martin, what they're getting, if they eventually do land him, and this has not been official yet, but it just feels like it's going to go there. And then the other thing that has to get negotiated is the amount of gardening leave. How long is before Wheatley will actually be able to join the team? So if that is eventually going to happen and it's within this year, that's a huge negotiating win that they've been able to do.
Mm-hmm.
But he will bring that sense of positivity, a good team culture. He's a glue guy. It's something that Aston Martin apparently really needs because it feels like they have these different divisions that are all kind of going in different directions and there's no unifying principle. So he may just be just what the doctor ordered for Aston Martin for this project, but the drama goes on and we're only 3 rounds in. And yet again, we've gotten more drama, 2 races and poof, Adrian's probably had enough. And he looked like, I had to say, he looked like a guy who'd been like having like a stomach ulcer or something every time he would go out. It just looked like he was stressed. So maybe this is at least for him a better. All right. So we will focus a little bit on this weekend. Someone who we thought maybe going into this weekend would have the fire and the spice and all the interesting radio and maybe the media. He will not be there because he's about to become a new father. Fernando Alonso will skip F1 Japanese FGP FP1. Jack Crawford will be in the seat for Free Practice 1. And Alonso, who was originally scheduled to be in the FIA press conference, which for us here in the U.S. is actually going to be in about maybe 2 or 3 hours, will now no longer be there because his first child is apparently imminently coming. So that is something I think you would want to be there as an expected father. Those things are never actually easy. And if you thought Fernando Alonso didn't get sleepless nights thinking about the Honda engine and all the vibrations, wait a few weeks till the baby comes home. So, wow. Cody, well, first of all, congratulations to Fernando and his wife. We're happy about that. But Cody, what's your thought on all of this?
Same thing. Congratulations to Fernando and his partner. Very awesome for them. It's cool that Fernando Alonso is in what we assume to be the twilight of his career in his 40s, and he's now embarking on fatherhood. So congratulations to him. You might just find out here that worries about GP2 engines mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, he's going to be hopefully there for his child's birth, so he's not going to be at Free Practice 1. I can only assume that he will be rejoining for the rest of the weekend, and who knows, maybe he'll just take this opportunity to call it a day a little early on Sunday, as the Aston Martins have been doing so far, and go enjoy some time with his family.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling that if he will get to his number of laps and his hands will tell him when it's maybe time to stop. So, but congratulations to Fernando and his partner on the birth of their first child. All right. One other big kind of story that's been floating out there, and it's gotten a little more momentum, and it's the FIA has now become involved, Ferrari and more recently McLaren have asked for some technical clarification on the Mercedes front wing actuator, believed to potentially be giving them some sort of advantage through the corners, which is, of course, where if you look at all the data traces, they're not only good in the straights, they're also really darn good in the corners, this Mercedes car. And those who have the engineering minds think that this actuator or flexi wing component that is doing something that may be outside of the regulations. I don't really know all that much about it. I've tried to read it up on some of the McLaren boards because they're involved in it. It just kind of feels like McLaren is kind of globbed on and said, well, yeah, if you're going to protest, we'll protest too, because, they're up at the front and we're not. So, okay, fine. Feels kind of like flexi wings all over again, but the FIA did take the flexi wings away when they did it. So who knows what's going to happen here? But Cody, what's your thought on this development?
So I have watched some of the slow motion footage in question, especially that came from the Chinese Grand Prix. And it does appear like the front wing on the Mercedes closes in 2 stages. It closes, and then after like a short break, it continues to raise up even more. It's a little, it's slow motion footage from a race. It's a little bit of a struggle to tell how much of that is due to track conditions and how much of that is due to, the actual actuating mechanism behind that wing. But the rules are pretty cut and dry when it comes to the open and close mechanisms on these wings. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head what the number is, like 200 milliseconds or 400 milliseconds or something like that. But the wings have to move between their low drag and high drag positions in that amount of time. And it does appear that if the Mercedes wing is functioning in such a way that it's achieving its final position beyond that time frame, that it would be against the rules. And I guess that is what this technical clarification hopes to clarify is, hey, is this actually okay what they're doing? Does it need to be in that final position within that time frame? If so, maybe you should do something about Mercedes. Otherwise, if it just needs to move into some other position and then, whatever things happen that get into that final position happen later, I bet you if they say that is okay, you're going to see something like these 2-stage wings appearing on a lot more of the cars in the field.
Yeah, given the break in the schedule that we're about to have, it does feel like you kind of want to get clarification on this now, because like if you're going to try to develop this in the next 4 weeks, you're going to want to do it now versus later. So I have not seen any formal investigation on the FIA's part. There's been no challenge to any of the Mercedes results. There's been no appeals filed or anything like that. So there's a whole section that we haven't even gone down. I think at this point, it's just a question, and the FIA has not issued a technical directive yet. They could take it under advisement. They can ignore it. They can choose to do a whole lot of things with it. We kind of saw with Flexi Wings where they said, okay, well, you can use it. And then we got our first 7 races. Well, because you've already invested so much money in X and we don't want to screw with the cost cap. So we'll let you keep it. But then at this point, then it's going to go away. And I'm imagining that all of the Mercedes wings to this point have gone through tech. They've been through 2 races. They've obviously passed whatever FIA tests are there for it. And I think therefore this is probably much more of is this a loophole that they discovered that we didn't necessarily think about? And then it goes back to what's the intent of the rule, all that other good stuff. So FIA drama in its finest as we go in the young part of this season. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We will recover from all of the breaking news. I'll check my phone to see if there's anything else that popped up in the last few minutes here. But we'll come on back. We'll get into our Japanese GP track facts. We'll tell you about all of the current stats related to the Suzuka circuit. We'll preview what the weather's going to do. Do we see any bit of rain? And then we'll give you what we think is going to happen over the course of this weekend. It's our prediction segment. You won't want to miss it. And then we'll tell you when and where to find your F1 sessions this weekend. So come on back. You will not want to miss it. You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back on in. This is Season 8, Episode number 5 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2026 Japanese GP preview show as F1 goes to the land of the rising sun. You've got Andy on along with Cody tonight, and we just wrapped up a very interesting and informative news segment. We're going to hop into the weekend proper. We're going to start, as we are always apt to do, with our Japanese GP track facts brought to us by the good folks at Pirelli Motorsport. So, Cody, tell us about the Suzuka International Circuit.
This weekend, Formula One heads to Japan to race around at the Suzuka International Racing Course located in Suzuka, Japan. Number of laps for the Grand Prix is 53, and the length of the circuit is 5.807 kilometers. That's 3.608 miles, and it consists of 18 turns. Tire selection from Pirelli is going to be the hardest on offer. The C1 for hard, C2 for medium, and C3 for soft compounds. And the track characteristics from Pirelli are a 3 out of 5 for traction, 4 out of 5 for asphalt grip, a 3 out of 5 for asphalt abrasion, 4 out of 5 for track evolution, 5 out of 5 for tire stress, 2 out of 5 for braking, and a 5 out of 5 for lateral load. Qualifying lap record here is going to go to Max Verstappen. He set that last year with that really awesome, unexpected pole lap last year. With a 1 minute 26.983 seconds, while the race lap record also was set last year, but that was by Kimi Antonelli with a 1 minute 30.965 seconds. The most wins around all tracks in Japan is going to go to Michael Schumacher with 6 wins, followed by Lewis Hamilton with 5 wins, and Sebastian Vettel with 4. I believe at this point, actually, Max Verstappen also is up to 4 because he's, I believe, won the last 4 races that they've held in Suzuka. Most constructor wins. There you go. The 2 V's.
We'll update it as in real time here.
The most constructor wins here is going to go to McLaren with a whopping 9 wins, and then it is a very impressive 3-way tie with 7 wins each between Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right, you show us a racing driver who doesn't love Suzuka, and we'll show you a liar. The high-speed track remains one of the most ultimate driving challenges in the world, with the snaking S-curves, the 2 commitment-rewarding Degners, and the white-knuckle ride of 130R. It all highlights a series of one of F1's most seminal tracks, and hey, it's even got a crossover. That's always cool, right? As for your weather, doesn't look like we're going to see any rain over the course of the weekends. For depending on where you are in the world, you're qualifying maybe Friday or Saturday, but your Saturday qualifying in Japan will feature mostly sunny skies, a high of 64 degrees Fahrenheit, winds out of the southeast at 5 to 10, so not too bad there. A scant 5% chance of rain. And for Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, high near 66, winds out of the southeast, again 5 to 10. Only a 7% chance of rain. So for most of your F1 cars, this is kind of right down the middle weather-wise. Maybe a couple cars might like to see it a little warmer, but the Mercedes seem to always do well in cold weather, so I would venture more of the same from them this weekend. All right.
You know, I never really appreciated the 130R turn at Suzuka until I was playing the most recent iteration of Gran Turismo and crashed out there brutally about 100 times in a Super Formula car. So I promise it's not as easy as it seems.
Oh no! Modern F1 cars have turned that corner, and it used to be the thing. Like it was always like the 4-minute mile where like if you could ever get through 130R without lifting. And then an F1 car did it, and then it just kind of became another corner. But that corner was designed to be a super challenge, and sports cars and everything basically other than an F1 car have their problems there multiple times. But yeah, it's one of the best corners on there. On the calendar, in my opinion. It's going to be interesting to see with these type of cars. Does it have more bite than it has had in the past few years? We shall see. All right. So we are going to hone in on this weekend and we're going to let you know what we think is going to happen. We will start, as we are always apt to do, with the pole sitter. As Cody mentioned, the 2025 pole sitter was Max Verstappen. With that, and even as a McLaren fan, I tip my cap to him on this one. It was an amazing lap by Max Verstappen there. He's setting the track record as he did it. But do we think we're going to have a repeat of that? I would venture to say no. Probably not. Probably no track record, and I doubt I'm going to see Max Verstappen near the front. I'm going to give this one to George Russell. Despite Kimi Antonelli doing the job last year, last race, not last year, last race. I do think this is the track where experience matters. George is in the best car. He's got the most experience of the two Mercedes drivers. I'm going with George for the pole. Cody, what you got?
Yeah, I think Antonelli's pole last week was certainly helped out by some technical issues in Q3 on George Russell. So I do really think that Mercedes is going to be one of the Mercedes drivers is going to be my pick for pole until someone else manages to take that away. They just, they seemed so clear in Australia, and the margin has shrunk a little bit from China. Maybe Mercedes just wasn't as dominant there, or maybe they thought they blew everyone's socks off a little too much in Australia, so they needed to turn it down a little bit. But either way, I agree with you that George Russell is probably the best pick for pole sitter.
All right, very good. Last year's lap time was the track record, 126.983. These cars have not necessarily come close to any track records yet. Cody, what you got for a lap time for pole?
I'm going to go quite a bit slower, especially now that we know we're not going to have as much recharge available. I don't know how much that'll actually affect the overall lap time versus the manner in which these cars are driven. But either way, I'm going, what is this? A little over 2 seconds slower than last year's time. And I'm doing that with 1 minute, 29.119 seconds.
All right, very good. I'm slightly quicker than you because I hadn't read the FIA directive when I put this in, but I'm going to stick with it. I do think we're going to average about between 2 and 3 seconds slower. That's been kind of the delta that we've seen in the first couple of races. I think this will be similar, despite the change to the regs here. I do think it'll be a little bit quicker than what you got. I got a 128.848. All right, so turning the page to Sunday. Our last race before the break. Now, that's going to be interesting. Do we have the same type of last race before a break thing that happens where it tends to get more crazy? So maybe we see something different, some variability. Who knows? But anyway, we're going to focus in on a race podium. Cody, what you got?
I think we're going to see the same group that we've seen at the front from the first two races. I got George Russell converting pole into a win. I do think Ferrari seems very confident, though, and I think they're going to be competing still right there, close to. I feel like they're so close to getting that win. They just need to be able to hold off Mercedes beyond like the first pit stop sequence, and then I think they might have something. But I don't think Leclerc's going to have enough to compete for the win this time. But I do think he's going to come in second, and then I've got Kimi Antonelli wrapping up at the podium in third.
Yeah, I think this is the track where the Ferrari advantage off the line, if they play everything right, just might get them there. That having been said, I still don't think it's going to happen. But I'm interested to see them try. And I actually kind of, in a weird way, hope they pull it off. But if you're putting a gun to my head and you're making me do predictions, I'm going to think experience again counts. I'm going to go George Russell, Kimi Antonelli second. But a very spry and now spring in his step, Lewis Hamilton will be a factor, I think, in this race. And I think Leclerc will be a factor, too. It's just somebody's got to finish on the podium. There's only 3 spots. So I'm going to give it more to Hamilton over Leclerc here. All right. So our fastest lap in the driver, as we mentioned, was Kimi Antonelli set. That was also a track record, a 1 minute 30.965. I don't necessarily think we're going to see a repeat of a track record, but I might have the same guy doing that lap. I do have Kimi Antonelli coming home with the fastest lap. It's going to be a bit slower, though. I've got a 1:33.428. Cody, what you got?
I am in agreement with Antonelli getting the fastest lap. I think he'll be in a position to do so, being that he is in the best car on the grid. If our predictions are correct and he's not leading, means George Russell is probably going to be managing pace. So I don't think he's going to get the fastest lap. So I think Antonelli is the pick for that. I got him doing it just a little faster than you with a 1 minute 33.119 seconds.
All right, very good. All right, so for our bonus picks, we've gone with P4, P7, and P9. So a smattering across the points. I'll go first with this one. I did say I think Charles Leclerc will be a factor. I think he will continue to be a factor, but I do have him coming home P4. For P7, he may be overachieving right now in this car, and that may not be a bad thing, but Pierre Gasly's had a very solid start to the season, and I would like to see more points come his way. So I'm going to for P7, I'm going to say a guy who actually hasn't started a race yet. I'm going to give Oscar Piastri to come home in P7. And P9, I was going to give to Pierre Gasly, who I think has had a very strong start to the season, and I would like to see that continue as well. Cody, what you got there?
All right, kind of same logic as you with the Ferraris just not having enough room on the podium. Since I picked Leclerc for third, I'm picking Hamilton for fourth. Now, being that I think Red Bull right now is probably the fourth-ish best car, as McLaren is probably going to continue to improve, I think that means, unfortunately, the Red Bulls are kind of probably be right around that 7-8 mark for the time being. And I can't bring myself to predict Verstappen as far down as seventh. So I'm going to put Hadjar there. And then ninth place, I think Esteban Ocon is going to be in a position to get some points there near the bottom of the top 10 since that Haas has been performing so well. So I got Ocon in ninth.
All right, very good. Well, McLaren may be the third fastest car in terms of qualifying pace, but the thing that has been hindering them this season is the hour before the race starts. Let's just be honest, weird shit's been happening to them this season. So I guess for our prop bet, I got to take this one on the chin. And do we actually see both McLaren drivers start the race on Sunday? My answer to this is just they had better. Damn it. Otherwise, things are going to go flying in this apartment in the middle of the night. So I'm going to say yes. Damn it. But Cody, what you got?
They gotta, man, because, three DNSs in 4 Grand Prix entries to start the year is a pretty brutal stat. But the McLaren hat that looks just like yours, that's hanging over my closet over there, it says that I can't bet against McLaren here. I feel like that would be a little too brutal. So I think they're going to hopefully by now have ironed out enough of the kinks that they can actually get both cars to start this time.
Yeah, I never thought that the most dramatic part of my F1 weekend would be the half an hour on the recon laps. I'm going to have to fire up my timing screen right when it kicks on to make sure that they get out. But I guess this is where we are. Wow. All right. So when and where can you watch those recon laps and all the rest of the laps going on this weekend? Well, if you are in the U.S., F1 TV Pro or Apple TV will get you there. If you have Apple TV, you can link it to F1 TV Pro. It's my recommendation if you like the onboards and the control over all the stuff. Or you can watch directly on the Apple TV app in most smart TVs. They'll hook you up that way. You can project from an Apple device to a smart TV if you want to go that route too. Got all sorts of different ways of doing it. But FP1 will start Thursday, if you're in the U.S., at 10:25 p.m. Eastern. FP2 will be Friday, 1:55 a.m. Eastern, so early in the morning. FP3 will also be Friday later that night, 10:25 p.m. Eastern. Qualifying kicks off 1:55 a.m. Eastern with the race set to go at 1 a.m. Eastern. Midnight for us here. So this is our last one for a bit. It's going to feel kind of weird, especially with this just being the third race of the season. I'm intrigued to see how this circuit will adjust. We've now seen the FIA come in and make some adjustments to some of the regs for qualifying. What does that do? So there's a whole lot of things to be interested about. I am fascinated to see how this weekend unfolds. Cody, I know this is one of those places where you're going to be all in it because you will be there soon. But any final thoughts as we head into the weekend?
I am cautiously optimistic for this race because while Suzuka has always been an excellent track to watch qualifying at, the races in recent years have left something to be desired. So maybe this generation of cars will turn that on its head and make the racing a little bit more interesting. Fingers crossed. It does pain me a little bit that we're going to have like a month off here, and then we're going to go to Miami, which is definitely not one of my favorite tracks, and then we're going to have like another 3 weeks off. So I'm hoping to capitalize on this weekend because I don't have super high hopes for the next one.
All right. Well, as I've said before many times, the sport will give it to you when you least expect it. And Miami's last race, I actually thought was pretty good. You got some overtakes for the lead, and turned out to be better than we thought. And then they had a deluge of rain. So, that's always the great equalizer and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this one. I'm interested to see how well does the racing that we've seen, the good racing, or at least the good amount of overtaking, does that translate here? If it does, we know now something about how these cars will really work, I think, more in the long term, because this is other than like Monaco, this is one of the hardest places to overtake. So if it's more than just a qualifying procession that we see over 50 some laps on race day, that's an improvement. That's a good thing. I'm interested to see what this rule set, like I said, does a small change make that big of a difference? Maybe, maybe not. It's something to look forward to. And then just the team dynamics, what happens throughout, the course of the weekend. And then do we have the crazy race before a break? Usually, sometimes when these F1 drivers know that they're going to be on a break and they can maybe wreck the car because they think they can get it fixed, you tend to see maybe more safety cars or maybe more crashing or more moves attempted than you might otherwise do. So all things to be revealed over the weekend. So if you've been with us for this long, thank you so much for sticking with us. We will be back on Sunday night to recap all of the craziness in the F1 world over the course of this weekend. So we will be back then. Until then, take care of yourselves, folks. It's a crazy world out there. And as always, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at OutlapF1 Podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.